I'm Dr. Dave Pennington from Penn Coaching Consulting, and I want to talk to you a little bit about what I do with business owners. One of the things I do is I provide an assessment for them where they can understand the value of their company. You can get an actual number of what your range and then a mean of what your company is worth. The assessment I provide is based upon 8 metrics. And today I want to talk to you just about one of those metrics, which I'll call cash flow. When you get ready to buy a company, you're going to write I'll call it 2 checks. The first check you're going to write is you're going to pay the owner a certain amount of money for whatever he or she thinks that company's worth. You have to come to agreement on that and the terms and all of that. But you're writing that check. So you're going to write a check. And then the second check you're going to write is a check where you're actually writing a monthly check that will cover the expenses of operating that business. And so as a buyer, as you start looking at things, one of the things you want to do is you want to make sure you've got enough money coming in so that second check you need to write, actually you might not need to write it at all. You might have enough coming in that takes care of all the expenses. And what you want to do is grow that so you can get some extra income or profitability off of that. But sometimes when you first buy a business, you are writing a check. You're writing a check to make sure the business is operating. Now, there's a lot involved in cash flow. You have expenses in running a company, so like employees and benefits and those kind of things. You might think of other relationships you have where you have payables. So you're writing whether it's the rent or a mortgage or electric or whatever, but you have these different payables that come in every month that you have to pay. And then you have what we will call receivables. Receivables are where you've done work for other people and they're paying you. So you're sending them an invoice and they're mailing you a check or posting an amount in your account and you're receiving that from them. Now, here's an area that sometimes we get in trouble because quite often businesses are notorious for stretching out what we'll call your receivables. You send something out, it's due in 15 days or 30 days. They don't pay it within 30 days. They stretch it out and they might try to pay it within 60 days or even 90 days. So they're not very prompt in paying it. Well, all of that hurts your cash flow, because your expenses continue on whether you get the money in or not. And sometimes you're having to float the difference until you get that money in, and then you kind of get caught up. So one of the areas you can really focus in when you're thinking about managing your cash flow well is making sure you're really on top of your receivables. And what I mean by that is that you're not allowing people to stretch you out. You're not allowing people not to pay what's owed you in a timely fashion. If they're overdue, you're calling them and saying, "Hey, I don't see your check here. Can you take care of this invoice?" And let them know that you're expecting that check. Another thing you can do is if they're paying you late, you can have an upcharge on it. So if you're gonna get it late, you might as well make a little more money. And I know all of that affects relationships with people. Sometimes we're a little bit afraid to squeeze our clients because we think if we squeeze them too much, they'll go somewhere else. Well, that may happen, but also sometimes because we don't say anything, they're not paying us in a timely fashion because we're not squawking. So, the old adage, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. You want to be, in a good way, a squeaky wheel. You want to let them know, hey, I need you to pay me. And you can remind them, hey, I've got payroll, I've got expenses, so, if you don't pay me, then I can't pay my bills, and it's really putting me in a bind. And if you're going to continue to be late, I'm probably going to have a late fee on this, and it's not going to be inexpensive to you. So is there any way I can get you to get that check in? If you find that you have people that are particularly notorious for just not paying you in a timely fashion, that might be a client that you eventually want to kind of weed out of your portfolio of clients because they're just not good clients. And if you can, replace them with someone who is more responsible, who's going to pay in a timely fashion, and you weed that one out, and then you don't have to deal with that anymore. But you have to really stay on top of your receivables if you're going to have good cash flow management. The other area that I think a lot of times, it depends on your business a lot, is projections. Quite often, we're projecting out what we think is going to come in. Now, sometimes we're good at that. Sometimes we're really not good at that. But all that becomes important because it's not just the fact that you have money coming in, but it's the timing in which it comes in. Because your expenses are going to continue on and on and on each month. They don't go away, and they're typically tied to dates and time periods. And you want to make sure that you're getting money in a timely fashion so that when you get ready to pay it out, you have the cash. You're not having to go into savings, or you're not having to have a line of credit, or you're not having to have some other means or way by which you pay your bills and then wait till that money comes in and kind of get caught up. If you do, you're riding kind of the cash flow roller coaster ride. It's not really a good fun place to be in. It's not one that you really want to practice. You really kind of want to get your ducks lined up so that your cash flow is being managed well. Your receivables are coming in a timely fashion. They're meeting the needs for your payables. You're weeding out people who aren't paying you. You're getting good clients that will pay you in a timely fashion. And you're projecting your income as accurately as possible. If that's not an area you're strong in, you might even consider working with a chief financial officer. It can be fractional, doesn't have to be full-time, but they typically specialize with helping you with projections. And if you're in the trades or construction kind of world, that can be particularly important because projections can often make or break your business and certainly stress your life out if you're not projecting well. So those are all things that you have to do when it comes to actually managing your cash flow. Now, think about it. If I want to buy your business, one of the things I'm going to look at very specifically is what's your cash flow? Do you have adequate money coming in a timely fashion so that as the expenses go out, I'm not going to have to pull money out of my own pocket to meet those bills because you have a good sequence, a good order, a good timeliness in the way your cash is working within your business. Once I see that as a buyer, that makes your business much more attractive to me because I'm writing the first check to buy your business, but I don't want to have to write too many second checks. If at all possible, I don't even want to have to write a second check. I want to know I have money coming in a timely fashion that will meet my expenses and then hopefully a little profit left over. And I want to build that profit. But at least I know coming in the front door, I'm not going to be having to write a second check right away. So cash flow is super important. And I would encourage you, if you haven't spent much time on looking at that, that'd be a wonderful time or space to spend some time because it's super important to your business. Now, if you need some help with this, I'm Dr. Dave Pennington from Penn Coaching Consulting. You can reach me at dave@penncoaching.com. I'd be glad to make the assessment available to you. You can learn about the value of your business. You can learn about the 8 metrics. Cash flow is one of them, but there are 7 other ones that are also important. And I would encourage you to reach out to me. We can have begin a relationship and see if there's a possibility of helping you. And most of all, we can help you improve the value of your company and one day when you're ready, the sellability of your company. Dave@penncoaching.com.